So to start off our data management unit, we're going to start by looking at a couple of different types of data. Okay? We're going to look at 1 and 2 variable data and the differences between them. So first of all, what a variable is an attribute that can be measured. So what this means is we can put some sort of quantity to it. We can put a number to it. And these variables can change. Okay? For one variable data set, you know, and this is pretty obvious, you know one attribute. So if we only have one attribute, for example, height, so we have the height of a person, okay, we can quantify, give a number to that one variable. We can recognize one variable data when we see things like if you have a tally chart, and I'm going to show you some examples of all of these. If you have a tally chart, histogram, let's say you could do a bar graph, a frequency table, okay. Oh, and right, circle graph. So these are displaying one variable. Okay, you have one quantity that you're displaying. So these are a couple of examples here. Okay. In this case, we're looking at, here's some different people, and we're looking at the number of coffee cups they have every day. So John has 3 a day, Akeem has 6 a day, Joanna has 1 a day, etc. And similarly, something like this can show the same number of, the same type of data. Television ownership. So this looks like how many televisions, and this tells you the frequency. So how many people own no televisions? 1. How many people own 1 television? 5 people do. Okay. So frequency tables like that, frequency bar charts, is all one variable data. For 2 variable data, we know 2. We know 2 attributes about each subject, and one of these is going to be called dependent, and these are words we've used before, dependent and independent. So the independent variable, as you know, always goes on the x-axis, and the dependent goes on the y-axis. This should be reviewed from a little while ago, but we will go into it in more detail. Okay. This can be identified by ordered pairs. So anytime you have something like your x-y situation, and 2-column tables of values. So that's your, if you've got x, y, a table, and all your values. We generally graph 2 variable data. We usually use a scatter plot. Okay? Because there are 2 numbers involved, we usually use an x-y axis and scatter plot the values. Okay? Some 2 variable data sets have a relationship between them. And this can be seen in any trends in the data, so if the points are all connected on a line or a curve. Okay? So we're going to get into that in a lot more detail as well. This is kind of an introduction to everything that we're going to be going through in this unit. There we go. So this is something that I've just included as a brief summary. Okay? Brief, I know it looks long. Okay? This is something that I got asked about a lot, is what is the difference between doing something like a bar graph and doing a histogram. Okay, and these are a couple of other types of things that we can use for 1 variable data. So this is all 1 variable data. Okay, you've got minutes to work, and so this is a frequency chart. This one is a bar graph. Okay, that shows us favorite dessert and the frequency. So the difference between a histogram and a bar graph, in a histogram the bars are obviously touching. Okay, there's a hole here, but they're touching. And in a bar graph they don't. And the reason for that being, A histogram shows values that you can have the in-between values, or in other words, we're showing a range of values. Okay? So if somebody walks minutes to work, if somebody takes 0 to 20 minutes to work, then that's a range of values. We're going to use a histogram for that. 0 to 20, 20 to 40, 40 to 60, etc. It's really important that these have the same width. So in other words, this one can't represent 0 to 20, and then this one 0 to 30, because that means that this one's overrepresented than the other one. In a bar graph, it has to be distinct sets. It can't be somewhere between yogurt and cake. Either like yogurt or like cake as a favorite, assuming that somebody doesn't like them both. Okay? In other words, there's no 1.5. There's no in-between value, like there was with minutes to work. So there's no range. It's concrete, yogurt, cake, pudding, fruit. So these are what we call discrete values, and these are what we call continuous values. So that's the difference between a histogram and a bar graph. A couple other ways we can show one variable data. This is a pictograph, and a pictograph literally says if this is, say, a zoo, each one represents a given number of animals, okay, in this one. In a pie chart or a circle graph, okay, same thing. Typically, whatever section of the pie, the larger the section, it should represent a percentage of something. So this looks like, this one doesn't have a title. These ones don't have titles, sorry. But this looks like a bus, car, bike, walk. This might be modes of transportation to work. So 40% of people take the bus, 25% of people take the car, and usually with a circle graph, some sort of legend is given explaining which one is which. So that's just a brief introduction to 1 and 2 variable data. We're going to do a couple of examples of how to work with these.